No, your kid gets it wrong here. It's the Parliament of Papas, where we take a funny argument and try to solve the problems of the world. And tonight, the Parliament needs to address this one. Fandom legacy. Should you introduce your kids to your favorite franchises early or let them discover their own? So, Kurt, you got second generation of kids, grandkids, obviously, that are coming up in that. So, should you show them your fandoms or let them discover it?
So, much like Hotep said earlier, and I love this point. We didn't actually get back to it, but I will expose them to my fandoms, but allow them to choose whether or not they dig it. Right? So now there's some dangers there. Like, I think I failed my son because I didn't introduce him to Star Wars early enough. So his first ones were the prequels.
Kurt,
that's on me. That's on me. That's on me.
I blame my wife for that one. She's just like, I thought you started at 1. I'm like, no, you don't.
Right, but I did. But like with both kids, I got them into video games and stuff early. Again, I introduced them responsibly. They weren't playing GTA 5 at 3 years old. And let them find their own way. And what was really interesting, particularly my son's 31 now. And so without really pushing him at all, he loves Dungeons and Dragons and goes down that whole same line that I did. I think I had some passive kind of influence on that because I worked in the video game industry for a little over 20 years.
Wow.
And so I worked on some role-playing stuff. I worked on every genre that you can think of. I mean, so he was exposed to nearly all of that.
Wow.
When he was a toddler, I worked at Hasbro Interactive.
What?
Yeah, and so he came in and tested Tonka video games for us because he was the right age, So, it's. But I think introducing them, at the very least, they can see your passion for it, right? And seeing something that Dad loves is pretty powerful. No matter what it is. Unless it's like if I beat on my wife or whatever, that's not good to see.
Well, that also makes that powerful impression, though.
It does make a powerful impression, sure. But no, it's really important for the kids to see, what do you love? And that I'm allowed to love stuff like that. That's cool, all right? I mean, so... Yeah, I don't want to push them, but I want to show them what I love. Sure, certainly.
Hey,
So.
what about you, Joe?
I think you should definitely steer them in the right directions. But I do agree with Kurt that ultimately you got to let them decide for themselves, because if you try to force something on them, they're just going to hate it.
Never works.
and so... I've introduced my kids to a bunch of different things, and I'm especially like anime in particular, Japanese anime. I'm very I'm very selective on what I let them watch, because I have younger kids, and Hotep talked about it as well, how a lot of anime is really not meant for kids. It's a cartoon, but it is not kid friendly, especially not little kid friendly. And so it's not whether I want to introduce them to things, it's more so the timing of it, of when it would be age appropriate to introduce them to various things, and see what they end up liking. My middle child, he is just about done with the newer version of Voltron, because it's apparently leaving Netflix soon, so he's trying to speed watch to finish it up. But he has been thoroughly enjoying that, and Eventually, I have to figure out where you can stream the original and get them to watch that too. But yeah,
I would think Crunchyroll would have that because they have Funimation. But I don't know.
Well, it's definitely on YouTube because we got it saved. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, we got it on YouTube.
there you go.
And Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
wow, that's a
Yeah,
throwback.
isn't that? Man.
So you talked about being in the music industry. So this is. I brainwash my kids. I don't expose them to my fandom. I brainwash them as best I can. And when my firstborn son was, when my wife was pregnant with him, iPods were small but still expensive. But we ended up splurging because it gave her something to listen to, and then we did the headphones on the belly thing. And I always found it important to, like, when I was raised by my parents in the Deep South and religious, they were very controlling of what I listened to. But I do remember being able to go to sleep at night in music, and you know, I just really love the idea of music and how it really influenced my life. But it's like, you know, I really want to give my kids a wide range of things. So I put all kind of different things on this iPod, you know, from 90s rock to kids songs to other stuff. And what's funny is it ended up having a little bit of an adverse reaction, according to my parents, that when my son was 1 year old, of course, as they do, they get tired, they get cranky, whatever, and he'd already fed, and he was crying, and my parents were visiting, and we couldn't get him to calm down. So I turned on his favorite heavy metal song by Kill Switch Engage, and he just calms down and goes to sleep. My mom's like, that's Satan's music. I'm like, nobody owns this music, and I will tell you, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get him cool.
It calms the demon inside of him.
They did. But honestly, to this day, no, they don't necessarily like some of the same stuff I like, but every time you see one of those memes come up on TikTok, it's like, well, if you can name at least 5 of these songs, you're race right. They can name all of them. And they enjoy it, they can sing along, but they have their own taste, like you said. They've gotten into their own types of video games. I did make that mistake. I love Borderlands, and when my son was old enough to play, I put a controller in his hand, and we're playing, and he, for whatever reason, loved playing just the intro to the first game. Just he'd create a character, play through the first 10, 20, 30 minutes, get to a point where the game's really going to start, and then stop. And just create another character and do the same thing. I'm like, you're driving me nuts. There's a whole 60 hours in this game. He stopped playing. He hasn't played it to this day. So, yeah, Kurt, forcing things onto him is not the best way to do things.
Oh, so you're learning. That's cool.
But captive audiences, we had the DVD players in the car. They watched Animaniacs because I'm like, I'm tired of hearing the same old Shrek movie all day long. And so there. But, Hotep, you talked about, obviously, we've quoted you a couple times in this whole segment. But what is something that you did show them? Well, I guess maybe Voltron that they really hooked onto.
One interesting thing that I showed them that they. So to answer the question first and foremost, I do think it's important that parents expose their children to the things that meant something to them, especially if it's appropriate, right? So that the children can see this is, part of who my daddy and mommy is, right? We're talking about dads now. This is what my father is into. They should know that. So I've exposed them to a lot of different things, music as well. They all know Michael Jackson and a lot of the, R&B. We used to play a lot of that music. I spent a lot of time playing instrumentals for my children because I didn't even want the vocals to impact what they're thinking. I really like the fact that the experience in our household, we listen to a lot of instrumentals because the freedom of where the music takes you emotionally and mentally, I think is a beautiful thing. Different from when you're listening to people's words because they have intention with those words and they guide you. Yeah. So we do a lot of that. And even at nighttime when my boys ask me, Daddy, will you play, the lo-fi instrumentals or something, or the instrumentals from the animation series? So that being said, something interesting, though, that I did play for them, I don't know how I got to it, but Public Enemy. All right. So one of my favorite songs from 1988 was a song called Rebel Without a Pause from Public Enemy. And I was taking them through, some, hip hop, from the 80s songs, not Dr. Dre and NWA and all that, but some of the, more benign hip hop, fun loving hip hop music. I don't know how we got to Public Enemy, but in any case, right?
Fresh Prince, Uncle J,
exactly. Public Enemy, right? So, my children know like the beginning of this Public Enemy song, and they love Flavor Flav, you know. So
I mean, come on.
who doesn't, right? Everybody loves Flav. Yeah. So in any case, Public Enemy, there's this beginning of that song, and every time there's cues in our household when somebody says yes. If you guys find it, it's called Rebel Without a Pause, and it starts in a very unique way, and it's a scratch, and he says, yes, the rhythm, the rebel. And my children know that, you know, they'll quote that part, you know, at various times throughout our household. Nice. I'm like, man, wait till my brothers get to it. My 3-year-old is quoting Public Enemy. I'm proud. What?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I taught my kids the one rule. It's like, if you wear a band's t-shirt, and it's been in all media, your anime, anything, you better know not just the #1 hit single, but you better know something about that band. And so when my son was a toddler, I started that. We bought him a toddler-sized Run DMC shirt from the 80s, like his reprint, but it looked like from the 80s. So I started playing Run DMC for him.
Wow.
He doesn't remember that, but it's like, now somebody goes, well, what's that? He goes, I don't know why I know this, but this song is by Run DMC. Now leave me alone. Yeah, I like it. I like how you phrase that. You do want to share what you love, but then you got to be okay with where they go with it. And see where it goes. Man, this is a great time to get them quoting things and saying things, because it's so much cuter when a 3-year-old says straight out of Compton than when I say it. So,